morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Waffle Press Hangouts. I'm your host, Diego Crespo. I have a panel with me today because this is also kind of another episode of the Batman retrospective. It's weird. We're going to get into it with my co-hosts, Gina Versa, Matt Garingo, and guest Andrew Salazar. I'm just going to get that all out of the way because I feel like this is going to be kind of a busier episode for reasons. Gene, how are you? We'll start there.
I'm doing good. Not too tired. I went to see Speed Racer at midnight, so that was cool.
Oh, 35 millimeter.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
All about those Wachowskis. Everyone loves them.
Yeah. No one has any complicated feelings about their movies ever.
Stay tuned to the Cloud Atlas episode of our current retrospective.
Yes. And I believe the time of recording this episode, by the time we're done here, you'll be able to listen to Tough Guys Don't Dance.
Tough Guys Don't Dance. Everyone's favorite movie.
Yeah.
Tough Guys Don't Dance.
If you don't know about Tough Guys Don't Dance, you probably don't realize that you actually do. If you've been on the internet for the last 15 years, you know about Tough Guys Don't Dance. It's the oh God, oh man.
Oh God, oh man.
Yeah.
The worst line delivery
in
film history.
It's trended on YouTube. It's you know about Tough Guys Don't Dance.
And if you don't want to watch Tough Guys Don't Dance, and you maybe shouldn't want to watch it, we explain the whole plot in the episode, so you're good.
It is a lot.
Yeah, because we kind of had to break that fucking thing down. It was just, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that episode dropping.
Yeah, it'll be up after this. The video took a little longer. It wasn't complicated. It's just the image because YouTube doesn't give a shit about us anymore. So whatever. Also Andrew Salazar discussing film. What's up, Andrew?
I am doing great. I've actually got to see the movie that we're going to talk about almost a month ago now, and I've seen it 2 more times since then. So it's been kind of sitting on my head. Some of the things been going back and forth, going in circles, running around. So I'm ready to duke it out as always, because this is the best place to do that.
Thank you. I am honored to host the Duke Out, and I am also here with an in-session film mug. I don't know if you can see it.
No,
why is it blurring it? Why are you doing this?
Copyright. They're protecting you, Diego.
No, it's in-session film. They're our pals.
Wait. Put it closer to your face.
That shitty 3D. It's coming at the screen.
Is it working? No. Okay. In-session film's great. I don't know when their Batman episode drops. Probably the same day this one does. You should all listen to it. They're great. And in fact, I'll recommend some other people who I don't know their takes on it yet, but I'd recommend it. Richard Newby, who's just a great guy and great writer in general for the Hollywood Reporter. Go check him out. You probably have other people. So also Scott Mendelson, I think didn't like it, but I find his writing really interesting. The Action for Everyone guys had their podcast on it at the time of recording this, so they're kind of like my new favorite podcasts. So go check them out. So we're here to talk about the Batman. We don't really need to talk about anything else, do we?
Was anything else interesting watched this week by any of you?
I mean, a whole lot of interesting stuff did happen. Like there's a new Alien movie, and then they kind of that like Fox has never, like they're gonna fucking move away from making theatrical films. And
there was that, which sucks.
That's very depressing, but not to kill the mood. But that came out this week.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was kind of that was something we all knew was coming. What are they doing? 10 films, I think it is.
And 3 of them will be released theatrically.
I mean, that's better than 0. I guess that's what I can say at this point.
Yeah.
Take something.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that nonsense.
Yeah. But all right, this is a Batman episode. Matt and I did a Batman retrospective on every theatrically released Batman film, except for The Killing Joke, which we replaced with Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker, which is a great movie.
We did not want to talk about the fucking Killing Joke.
Yeah, sorry. Great, iconic comic for a reason. Some stuff's not aged well. I'm never watching that movie. Let's just get into the Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, Colin Farrell, John Turturro, Jeffrey Wright. probably some other people I didn't write down. I don't really know how I want to do this. I mean, Andrew, you've seen it the most out of all of us. Why don't you start us off with this?
Well, I think it's having seen the movie.
Spoilers, by the way. We're just gonna do a spoiler show.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
So having seen the movie almost a month ago and having been a part of like that first round of press who get to write about the movie and having like talking to the press at that like event where I saw the movie, etc. It's especially with superhero movies now, it's so like difficult because when you're one of the first people to see it, and especially if the movie's good, like genuinely good, not like typical same thing as last time. It's kind of hard like whenever you're tasked to write about something or finally get to react to it on the internet, especially Twitter. It's hard to like try to make up something to say that isn't like the same thing that you've seen regurgitated for like years now when it comes to this kind of stuff. It's like it's the next best thing. It's gonna save movie theaters, all of these things. And genuinely watching this movie, I was like, well, like I was like, shit, like it's really good. Like I don't want to sound like somebody who's like riding off the high of it, but like even after sitting upon it, it's like, no, like this is genuinely, in my opinion, the last time I felt this like passionate, or I felt that a comic book movie at least, was crafted with so much like thematic depth. And yeah, not everything is perfect, and like of course, like there's things that we can talk about later on that we can nitpick, but that was actually like this much focus, and that like a studio somehow, for lack of a better way of saying it, let them get away with like, yeah, just do your thing. Like if you want to do that, like that's probably not good. The kids might not like it, but just do your thing, something like that. The last time I felt like that was maybe Logan, and that was already like 5 years ago, which is kind of like crazy to think about. So I really did feel specifically me, and then again, like I'm pretty sure we're gonna like start diving into this soon, but I wasn't the biggest fan of Ben Affleck's iteration, but I acknowledge that a lot of that's not his fault because he wasn't like really given a lot of opportunity, and a lot of the stories that he was put into were not, they got their own things going on, and he didn't really ever get a chance to really like cement himself or get himself like a real tale where he's like, oh, like this is my take. But watching Robert Pattinson and watching this full-blown like 3 hour like detective story that's heavily inspired by you, like even 70s noir like Clue and stuff like that, it's like wow, like I literally sitting in the theater for the first time, it's like I felt like I was watching the same feeling when I saw Christian Bale when I saw Dark Knight trilogy in theaters, in the sense that like this is a real like fully fledged like three-dimensional Batman story, and it's crazy for me to think that I haven't felt this way, even though the character has stayed incredibly popular, and he's like his relevancy in the cultural sphere has not like diminished whatsoever. But like, how is it that this movie all these years later is like first actually give me this feeling? It's kind of crazy for me to think that. But I mean, yeah, to say that's a long way of saying that I loved it. If anything.
All right. I'm just gonna go by my little camera setup right here. I'm gonna go from right to left on my screen. So next up is Matt. You said you might have something else dropping. Do you want to go last?
You might want me to go last.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, then Gene. We go Gene. We'll go Gene.
Yeah, I was really enjoyed it. I was very intrigued that they went in certain directions with him as Batman, where I think they really emphasized year two, not going to do an origin, and kind of the little moments of the movie where kind of like took away where stuff like he's gliding and he looks scared to glide, and then he like messes up the glide and like again crashes, stuff like that, where yeah, I thought that that was pretty interesting. I guess you had kind of him making mistakes maybe in Batman Begins. Does anyone remember? He just like falls a bunch of times.
He got lit on fire and then fell down a fire escape the one time.
Yeah, no, he gets kind of fucked up in that one. Not like this one.
Yeah,
I would say.
Where it's like well, I thought like him just kind of not being like incompetent, but just kind of being bad sort of at first at being Batman, I thought was yeah, just pretty interesting. And the way they had him just as this emo sort of Bruce Wayne, doesn't want to go outside. Alfred's like bothering him all the time. He's very angsty. So yeah, I thought it was just different, I guess, than the usual sort of Batman origin or first Batman that you're seeing. So yeah, it was pretty satisfied going out of it. So I'll just say that.
Yeah, I also really liked it. I will say the length is it's just a long movie. Like that's just the way it is. I definitely felt it more the first time. The second time I got more into like the rhythm of the film, and because it is a little like episodic with its mystery structure in a good way. I don't mean that like as a negative. But like by the second viewing, I thought it like was paced really well. Like every scene has like a beginning, middle, and end, and that's not like a high bar to cross, but it soars over it.
Yeah.
And then that makes the runtime like more palatable to me, in my opinion. It's not my favorite Batman movie. Like I think that's just gonna be Batman Begins, like just on a personal level. And like my most basic take is probably that like I still prefer like the Nolan trilogy and Batman Returns. Like I'm sorry, it's not like I don't have any like hot takes to drop about this being like the best one or anything. But I did really love like the filmmaking. I mean, I'm a fan of the movie. I'm a big fan of the movie. But like I'm definitely thinking about like the way Gotham looks here. There's like people said like Zodiac and Seven with like the rain and the serial killer vibes. I really like the very obvious Blade Runner vibes that people are doing for their first Batman movies now. With Batman Begins, it's totally there, and this one with like the lo-fi tech and like the eye scanning and the when he's printing out the images, like that's just Blade Runner. It's the same scene. I don't know how no one's talking about this. Like, did no one else see? Whatever, it's fine. I really liked all that stuff. I've heard we don't want to spend too much time criticizing other people's criticisms, but I disagree. This is the only one I'll try to bring up. I really disagree with the fact or the idea that the third act is somehow weaker because it shifts from a mystery film to a disaster movie. I think what the film is going for, teaching Batman that he can't just be hidden in the shadows. I think you need something to have pushed him out into the open and have him confront that. And I think that's what the third act does. Like it all felt like a part of the story to me. So I really liked it. Some people have said it's the weakest part. I think of a film that ends strong. If the ending is strong, it'll be my favorite part of the movie. And I think that happened here. I think about like the visual storytelling. Like there's like a 5-minute extended sequence where it's just like silent. And it's just Matt Reeves kind of showing you Batman leading people out of the darkness after he's like accepted that he can't do this by himself, really. Zoe Kravitz is great as Catwoman. Jeffrey Wright rocks. Dudes rock in this movie. We'll get to the Gotham police stuff, I'm sure, in a moment, which I have mixed feelings on, and is not. I don't think it should be on every film that comes out of an artist's mind to like espouse same political beliefs. I would say that maybe it does feel weird just given the climate of the world we're in right now, though, to give the heroes or the cops like a not all cops hero shot, which was very, very silly. And yeah, that I really like the movie, and I'll give it to Matt now. I think he's ready to go.
Okay, well, we're gonna talk about cops really early.
Yeah.
So I gotta give a little preamble, which is just that I've only seen it once, and I do want to see it again, and I feel like I could easily watch it again despite its 3-hour length. I saw the movie. I had a pretty concrete take that I felt I was going to bring here, and I would give it on the show, and I was ready to talk about it. I wasn't really sure what the overall reception was. And then I was reading up on the film, because as one does, and I knew there was going to be a Penguin like prequel spinoff for HBO Max. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I was kind of like, what is the shared universe plan here if there is one? And it feels like they're just going to be like, we're just going to expand the Batman stuff. So I'm like, whatever, fine, that's corporate shit. But then I read that the spinoff that seems to be further ahead that will come earlier will be about the Gotham Police Department. And it will be told from the Batman's first year, told from the perspective of a corrupt Gotham police officer. And I got angry because, and like I said, I think Diego, you're correct. We shouldn't put I shouldn't. I'm not expecting a film, especially a tentpole blockbuster film, to espouse my political beliefs back to me. Like, and you know, and I even recognized a lot of what I disagreed with the movie in terms of politics and shit that I could always like totally fine living with and coming on here and like I would have talked about it and been like, it's fine. But coming the week of Joe Biden saying fund the police on national television and then seeing that, oh, we're just going to do police procedurals again. I had like a brain kind of cracked and I'm like, no, we have to draw a hard line on police narratives in fiction. Like if we can't even imagine our fiction without centering the police, then we're never going to imagine a better world either with or without the police. Like it's a genuine problem. And I just, my blood kind of started boiling and I got really angry. And I was like, and I said last year, I think, did you ever see Cop Shop?
Yeah.
And I recommended Cop Shop to you. And I wrote in that review that this is the last year I'm okay with cop films, like, which was last year. I'm like, the moment this year's up, I'm done. And like this year was like, I kind of had a weird thing with Batman. I'm like, well, it's a Batman movie. It's not really a cop film, despite Jim Gordon being a huge part of it. And I was like, and there's a part of me that like, I feel like I have to go against this film on principle. And that's, and I think I might ultimately, and that's really hard because I think this might be the best Batman movie ever made at this point. And again, it's going on one viewing. And I think a lot of my enjoyment of it is that I followed no marketing and I paid attention to nothing that was going on with it. So everything that happened in it was like a real surprise. Other than I knew Riddler looked like a fucking gimp for some reason. And I knew all that other shit. So I was really invested. I got really caught up in the movie and really enjoyed it. And then to come out like, so I'm torn in a weird way where I do want to come here and be like, respect the art, but it's also it's still corporate art. It's Batman. Like, you know, but I think I said on our retrospective that I don't think there's been a great Batman movie. Like there's been great movies with Batman in it, but and this felt like the first one that I was like, this is a great Batman movie. But now I'm like, I'm in this weird torn spot with it. And I'm still trying to work on. And I gotta say, the fact that I like the movie as much as I did, it says a lot because this movie had everything stacked against it for me. Where it was like, it looks like Batman Begins again. I don't like the fucking aesthetic of like, what if it was kind of real? Like the Batmobile doesn't really look like a Batmobile. It looks like a car someone might actually own. It's like fucking Penguin. They couldn't even find a real fat guy to play the Penguin. He doesn't have a cigarette. He doesn't have a big top hat. Fucking Riddler doesn't have a giant cane with a question mark on it. And he doesn't have a bowler hat. He doesn't say riddle me this, which is like all the shit I'm here for. And the fact that the movie doesn't have any of that and it still really worked for me, I think says a lot. But hey, that's my, you know, I guess politically charged take on the movie.
And like, let me kind of give you an off ramp here too, because like, well, no, because like it's unavoidable.
Yeah,
it's just it's unavoidable to not bring that up in a discussion for something.
Also, the movie
big as this
literally ends with like a fund the police message. Like the character that is an AOC stand-in is like, you know, we have to restore faith in our institutions.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think my read on that, and this might be giving it too much credit,
it absolutely is because I know you, Diego, but go ahead.
I think, considering that the Catwoman in this universe is also like kind of there to be like, oh, like of course this fucking asshole Batman grew up rich. I think the film does a decent job of showing that like only certain people can kind of have faith in those institutions. Only certain people are kind of allowed like the resources to have like faith in institutions that are fundamentally broken. Now the film might lean too hard in the opposite way to break my argument, but that is definitely the read I got. And it was funny, we were talking about it last night about we said the Kamala Harris stand-in.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were saying she's
Because
more like Kamala.
the every character in the movie, even if they're like bit parts, they tend to have like, you can kind of get a feel of something more to them, right? Or at least like you can kind of see the world they come from, except for her, and that's nothing to do with the actress, or like I felt like, oh,
They
she's
give
just
her-
kind of there to be like a progressive character,
They
which is
give her,
not
like-
a problem. I want to say that I some people are probably just fucking like hate women and people of color, and so that character must have just broken them, but that's not the problem.
They do give her one moment at the end where she like wants to still go out and like try and calm the crowd, even though she knows she's in danger, which is presented as foolhardy, but it does give her something.
Yeah, like she's got conviction. So like in the, I'm sure she'll come back in the sequel too, because like this seems to really have its like finger on the pulse of creating like a Gotham with lived-in characters, right? Like, so we can get more into her there, which I don't like doing for other movies. You know, I don't like well, we'll see them more in the next one. But I thought this one did such a good job at like creating a world full of interesting characters on its own that I'm like, yeah, I want to come back to this. I want to see what else Matt Reeves does in this little pocket of the universe. And to go back to the Gotham police force thing, Matt, you may be happy to know that it has since evolved away from that. Terrence Winter, the showrunner of Boardwalk Empire and Vinyl with Martin Scorsese, left the project like 2 years ago over creative differences. They never said what that was. It has now kind of evolved away from the Gotham police force into being about Arkham or something like that.
Or hope it still said Gotham Police Department when I read what I read, and
Okay.
it said told from the perspective of a corrupt police officer, which I feel like is what all the police narratives are going to be now, where it's like we're going to present the police, we're going to show there are bad police officers, and then we're going to show there are good, and we might even be really radical and suggest that there are more bad cops than good, which this movie certainly does, but we will never question the institution anyway, and they will still be central, and be like, this is a pillar of the community is the Gotham police. It's a thing of like, I don't want to see, like, if you're right now, if you're all jazzed up from the recent talk of defund the police and stuff, and you're writing your script about corrupt police officers, just take that shit, fucking throw it out. I don't want to see it. I don't want, just try to tell stories about communities, about crime, about all stuff without centering police. You can have police in it a little bit because they do exist in reality, unfortunately. But we gotta think about our narratives a little differently. And I was gonna give this movie fucking Jim Gordon being the one good cop. Like I was gonna be like, fine, because he gave a good performance and was a lot of fun, and he helped Batman escape from the police at one point, which was a great sequence. And I was like, fine, whatever. But I don't. You can feel the culture kind of shifting back, if you know what I'm saying. Like it's pushing back against, and it's that weird thing of like the anti-police protests and the January 6th protesters are the same thing when you get down to it, which seems to be the narrative being pushed by Hollywood, which is a very comfortable narrative for a lot of people. And, I'm a little concerned about that. And it's very overt by the end of this movie. I mean, it is straight up. This felt like at the end, it felt like it was like, this is what the rich and powerful think Antifa is. Like, that's what the ending of this movie kind of felt like for me. And I was going to let it slide, but we'll keep an eye on it, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If I could interject really quickly, because we were talking about, because I actually got someone came up and like fact checked me today because I was tweeting about the idea of like the GCPD show, like what are we doing here? Like who's this being made for? And people were really quick to like reply to me. It's like, oh, that's not like what Diego said. That's not a cop show anymore. It's about Arkham. And then because this apparently like it's very timely, it got published today that Matt Reeves started talking about it. And in his words, which I have pulled up right here, he says the GCPD thing, that story has kind of evolved. We've actually now moved more into the realm of exactly what would happen in the world of Arkham as it relates coming off our movie and some of the characters, blah, blah, blah. It's like a horror movie or a haunted house that is Arkham. That's the kind of vibe they're going for. And then one of the last things he says is the idea, again, the way that Gotham is a character in the movie, I really want Arkham to exist as a character.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't
No.
know if all this stuff about like the cop characters is still gonna be in that, but like this is coming up like today. Like this got posted
Okay.
today.
Yeah, I'm going on what I read last night, and then got
Yeah.
angry and got so angry I got tired and fell asleep. So, just it, if it shifts like that, I'm cool with that. And like I said, I was gonna give this movie a pass because I know it's been in the can for a while, and like like we're getting all this like backlog stuff that was written before a lot of weird shifts in our culture.
That's also something else too. Like your points are completely. I mean, I agree with them. You and I are very much on similar pages.
Also, everyone understand I have no idea what I'm talking about on anything.
Well, here's I mean, the other thing is like, yeah, we're not like an authority on this. Like I I'm sorry, Richard Newby stuff. Richard Newby stuff is just really well written and resourced, and he's just like a critical voice in this space too. But I would say that or I would remind everyone that also this film was written 2 years ago, which is or maybe even 4 years ago, right? Because they started production in 2019.
It's also one of those things that was like it was so much stop and start with it because of the whole Affleck. You can actually kind of feel the skeleton of like what might have been like Affleck's story in here with how the kind of the criminals of Gotham and also the citizens of Gotham kind of view Batman here. It's actually a great like mission statement opening of the movie where he comes out and beats up those thugs and he says, "I'm vengeance," which I guess was in the trailer. I was like, "Oh, that's a cool thing to say," and everyone was like, "He said it in the trailer," so I was like, "Oh, all right." And then like the own citizen is afraid of the citizen he's saving is afraid of him. Like that's a good way to start to kind of recontextualize what you're doing with this Batman, and that feels like something that might have come off of Batman v Superman, Batman, or whatever they were planning on doing with Affleck.
The game.
Matt Reeves, he actually read that script before he like decided to like come on. Like he got contacted to direct the Ben Affleck movie.
Yeah.
And then he read it, and the only word that he's used to describe that, even in interviews today, is James Bondian, which I don't know what I mean. I guess, but
he just threw it out.
Yeah, I mean that could mean like globetrotting. You know what I mean? That could mean a whole lot of things. So I don't know, but that is kind of similar to Ben Affleck, what you just said about everyone like just being scared like shitless.
And I love that so much of this movie. I love that this Batman is just like they took him to being not just like a crime. He's like a weirdo. Like everyone thinks he's insane, and he kind of is. He's like, and he's also like just so emotionally detached. I thought all that it's so interesting where even with like Christian Bale, it can feel like watching Batman Begins, you can actually kind of see him like finding his take on Batman as you watch the movie. Whereas like Robert Pattinson, it felt like from fucking frame one knew what take he was going for with Batman. And that was so fascinating to kind of watch. Which again, it's like, again, I gotta agree with Diego. It's 3 hours. It definitely feels long, but it didn't feel 3 hours long. And it kind of was, I really enjoyed the pace of it too. And I have to disagree with the people talking about the fucking third act of this thing. But again, a lot of it was just my surprise of it, like where I didn't realize that, like, because I loved that it was like this really slow, methodical, like detective story for most of it, of just like, and it's like it's briefly interrupted by like short action, and I really liked that. I was like, wow. So then when it did get big, it surprised me, but also it felt kind of earned, of like, okay, you're gonna save the big set piece for the end. My only question is, did they ever set up the Gotham seawall? Was there like a line of dialogue?
Yes, in the beginning.
Okay. All right. Because that was something where I was like, oh, there's a seawall. All right, whatever. Like it kind of caught me.
Metropolis and Gotham, Twin Cities.
Oh yeah. That great moment. And then the other thing I have to ask, I just might have missed it. And I didn't like walk out to use the bathroom or anything for me. But at the end, when he kind of gives him that like drug that like charges him for a second, was that set up before that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that too. I'm like, there's definitely some stuff where I'm like, oh yeah, the Riddler has this army of incels like I think it works for
Mhm.
like the direction of the story, but like if I feel like if Matt Reeves was in like a college writing class, he'd get notes back from the professor. Hey, you didn't set these guys up earlier.
Well, actually, I think there might be something interesting here. Maybe Andrew could fill me in.
Yes.
So there's the one guy at the funeral that like there's kind of
Yes.
like they and is that guy show up at the end? Is he one of the Riddler people
Yeah, I think-
at the end?
Isn't that the guy who gets punched in the face?
Yeah,
I
gonna say
you
that.
know
I don't-
I couldn't tell in the moment.
I know it's
like-
hard to tell because his face is all fucked up.
It's
Yeah.
hard to tell because his face is all jacked up. But having the second time I watched it, there's little motifs and shit about like the people, like just because like I think like the best Batman stories and the best Batman films specifically, they're the ones that achieve at making like Gotham like a whole ass character. Like
Mhm.
everyday people get like really important roles out of nowhere, like in the Dark Knight and shit like that. Like who's gonna blow up the other boat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's in similar here that you go back. So there's that guy at the church,
Mhm.
and that shot of Bruce like walking away from the dude and he's just a normal guy. He's like a nameless character. But the way that he like shifts back into like the shadows as he's walking away, watching it again, you're like, oh, like Matt, like he's not setting the insult army up like directly, but it's more kind of like he's like leaving crumbs.
Yeah.
Because when Batman arrives at the funeral as well, there's a whole
There's the Riddler protesters.
There's
and
a
stuff
Riddler
like
Right,
that.
protest. And then if you, the more that you watch, well, it's hard because like there's a lot of text scrolling. When you watch the Riddler's live streams, there's a lot of people in the comment section.
Yeah, you can. I
No,
tried to pay
there's a lot
attention
of-
to that.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dumb shit in there, like a lot of emojis and a lot of people making like dumb jokes, which is funny. But there's also a lot of like, go get him, Riddler, like fuck yeah, Riddler. A lot of like people like supporting it.
Yeah.
So-
yeah. Stuff like
I
that.
don't. Mhm.
Well, no, I just want to say like because I like that stuff too. Because look, I am someone who is definitely like, do we really need more realistic Batman?
Yeah.
I want to see Clayface. I want to see Mr. Freeze. I want to see another Poison Ivy. And we're just. No, I tried to like spin it with Andrew last night. Went to go to In-N-Out after the movie, and I was like, maybe they could do this. And I couldn't find a
It's
grasp
hard,
on how you
yeah.
do like
No.
Clayface in this version. And that's that's fine because Matt Reeves clearly has a vision for this version of that. That's
Yeah.
still different from the Nolan stuff. Like aesthetically, stylistically, it's a very different movie. I fucking love these anamorphic lenses. I love the way the shadows just drop off. Like it's a dark fucking movie and it looks fucking dark all the time and it's
Oh, it
so
looks
good.
fantastic.
Yeah,
it looked great.
Greg Fraser, I think this might be his best work as a cinematographer, like ever.
Oh.
I think he's
The mighty work.
he's one of my goats. He's one of my faves, but this is like next level stuff.
Mhm.
Better than Dune?
Yeah, I like it more than Dune. Sorry, everyone.
Oh.
Yeah, you know what? This is better than Dune visually, in my opinion.
I think it's a better movie too. I don't know if that makes me a shill.
It might.
They're both by Warner Brothers.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I might be a shill. I don't know.
Yeah, it just might be. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you know what I really liked? I think we got more Penguin in this fucking movie than actual Riddler on screen.
I feel like that. Yeah.
And I fucking love Colin Farrell's Penguin, which was like one of those things where I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this. And it's also, I gotta say though, maybe it's just because I'm watching The Sopranos again. It looks like they just wanted James Gandolfini for the Penguin,
Yeah.
but James Gandolfini's dead,
Mhm.
so they just like make him look like James Gandolfini. Like,
Or was it the Richard Kind? People kept saying he looks like Richard
He
Kind.
does.
Oh,
he
yeah.
definitely he looked a little bit like Richard Kind. Yeah.
I
but-
never
see
thought
that
about
Penguin.
James Gandolfini Penguin and that. Oh, R.I.P.
And it
What
looks
a great
like-
guy, but like that would have been perfect.
If it had been Gandolfini, they would have just done the nose a little bit to make him more penguin-like, and that would have been it. And instead, they just
Yeah.
did Colin Farrell's whole face. And I just loved him as just. I mean, I was honestly like, it's one of those things where you're expecting, like, I was expecting Penguin to show up and like have two scenes, and then he leads to another scene. And then
Mhm.
I was expecting Carmine Falcone to be like the guy who shows up in the first scene, and then he gets taken out really quick, and then it's like, but the Riddler's the real threat. And instead, like, there was like overarching stuff with these characters, which I've just come to not expect from superhero movies these days,
Right.
where it feels like it's Dr. What's his fuck, and he's gonna show up, and like it's like, I know who that is because I read the comic book. And then he's like, here's a ticket that leads to a party where the other guy's at. And then it's like, that's it. And it's like, oh, and he says the one thing he says in the comics, and it's like, and
It's killed off. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but so I was thrilled that it was so kind of interconnected. And I like that they're kind of setting up Penguin being like an overarching villain. Maybe if they make more of these, like I would love to see that.
I guess the Matt Reeves thing, because he's producing, and I believe he co-wrote at least the pilot, and is talking to the handpicked producer he chose to run the Penguin show, which means whatever, whatever.
It's HBO Max. What if it's just The Sopranos?
That would be incredible.
Need some more Sopranos cast to be in that. Like,
I mean, yeah,
that are still alive.
Like, I mean, like it's a stereotypical like Italian mob boss Colin Farrell's doing, but he's like killing it, But anyways, what Matt Reeves was saying was that, like, we have like we want to do like a rise and fall narrative, like a Scarface type narrative with the Penguin. And then someone, I forget what interview it was, but someone asked him like, oh, so there are like plans to do more with the Penguin? And he was given a tepid response, but basically said like, like where we could go with the character. I thought, well, why don't we just flesh that out in a series? And so the next time we would catch up with that character, hypothetically, if we do a sequel, you would understand their change in like worldview or something like that.
Yeah.
So
at least he's not lying. Like, he's like, I got it all planned out on a big board.
I mean, all these fuckers that say that, they're lying. Because movies get changed as you make them, and that's fine.
Nerds want that, because now the narrative. Anytime a movie is bad, every narrative that comes out now is that at one point the movie was good, and then someone came in and then went to the chalkboard and like erased all the plans and was like, and then drew a big $sign and said ha, and then left the room. And like that's what every like film narrative online is, and I'm sure that'll pop up about this movie, because if you were obsessing about the trailers, maybe you probably came up with some stupid theory about what the fuck was going on that is not present in the film at all. And now it's like, clearly that was the original plan. But then fucking Kathleen Kennedy snuck out of Lucasfilm and broke into the DC offices and changed all their plans. Like I'm so glad I didn't pay attention to any of the marketing, because it was such a thrill. Like, so much of it was a surprise for me.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, all the stuff I knew was stuff that kind of made me being like, I don't know about this. Like, I wasn't super excited. And then the movie ended up being really good. So it was, I gotta say, an opinion that like changed while I was watching the movie, Paul Dano's Riddler, which when he was first introduced, I was very much like, I don't know about Zodiac Killer Riddler. Like, and there's the scene when he had the cop in the fucking rat trap thing. And it was kind of like, I had a moment where I'm like, man, are we really doing the Dark Knight scene again? Like this, like already, like to reference that scene, it's like, that scene's kind of really iconic. And to reference it would be like, that's a little much, man. I was kind of not feeling it. But when we finally get Paul Dano without the mask, it like the whole character like shifted for me. Like it almost got a little meta for a second, where it's like, oh, this guy thinks he's fucking Heath Ledger Joker. Like this guy thinks that, but he really is just kind of this kind of broken dude who is desperate for like to fix the world that fucking broke him, like, and that. So I like literally like in the third act, I suddenly went like, oh, this character's actually really good. So
I had the same feeling too. The first time I saw it, I was like, that kind of is Paul Dano kind of the weak link. The second time it just immediately clicked for me, because I remembered where it ends up, and I'm like, oh no, it's a front, it's a mask. He's literally wearing a mask, so it should be fucking obvious to me, but it wasn't. And I was like, oh yeah, that's not really. It's just a performance. His performance is of a performance, And then like Paul Dano does have like certain mannerisms with his crazier performances, he'll kind of like scream, and then the scream will turn into a sentence.
Yeah.
And he does a lot of that, and I was like, is he phoning it in? And then it really hit me the second time, like, oh no, he's really playing like
he really went for
a fucking weirdo. And like it's a genuinely weird performance. Like it is unsettling to watch because it's so weird. Not like fucking Jared Leto's weird because he doesn't know how to like act, Like his Joker's just like there's no direction to that character, and not in a way that's meaningful. He just is a bad actor.
Yeah,
or even Paul Dano is like Paul Dano is just a weird, sad, angry, broken dude. who wants like that lost family that he cannot have, and like he's lashing out at the world. Like I don't know. It's a really fascinating interpretation of the Riddler, And it's also something I have to like set apart, like, because I'm like you, man. I'm like, I don't want more serious Riddler. I want my Jim Carrey back. And then it's like, okay, well, this is like a bit. Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, I want somewhere in the middle. I want, but maybe that's my problem. Maybe that's why, like, because that maybe would just be like the Marvel Batman movie, which, like, who wants to fucking see that? But I guess what I'm saying is they went for it. I like that they really took it seriously. Like, it didn't feel like they were trying to hit like targets that were set up by like focus groups or something, or like to be like, well, we have to top Heath Ledger's Joker in some way, which feels like the burden on every Batman movie going forward of like, we got to meet that performance. And I feel like, no, we're gonna let this character be his own character. And that's the other thing I gotta agree, like, it's so clear Matt Reeves fought for every single fucking thing that's in this goddamn movie and basically won. So like, I have to kind of respect it on that level. So I don't know. It was just a super engaging movie. Again, I have to rewatch it. I wonder how I'm going to feel on rewatch. If I'm going to be because I'm like, so much of my high from it is kind of the surprise of it. So I would have to check it out again. So maybe on rewatch, I'll be like, this doesn't work as much. This is blah, 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 blah. But yeah, right now I'm super hyped about it. Even with the fucking preamble I went on about how angry I am with our culture. But
yeah. It's better than being like Dark Knight Rises or something.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. I was rewatching that because I was like, oh man, I forgot how pro cop this one is.
Yeah, that would have been weird. I was kind of waiting for that moment in this movie. Like, there was kind of a part of me that's like, are the cops finally gonna be like, no more, and like rise up? And then, I mean, they had the one shot which kind of sucked where the Turturro was like, I own the police work for me, and then like, they don't all. And I'm like, well, how does he know all those guys are good? Like, yeah, I mean,
I thought like when he got shot, I thought it was going to show like a cop holstering their gun or something, and I would have been like, oh fuck yeah, that doesn't solve all the problems with the film. But I will say, back to the Batman retrospective Matt and I did, but Dark Knight Rises, it's very pro cop with the cops versus Bane's working class army, or the prisoner army, which is not great either, because a lot of them turned out to be like wrongfully incarcerated.
Yeah, all the people locked up for
the Harvey Dent law,
the Dent Act.
But that film does also notably end with the hero cop throwing his badge away, which doesn't solve all that film's problems, but it does end with like images of normal people of Gotham trying to rebuild, not the cops like parading through the streets, which I think is intentional.
And I do like that this movie ends with like martial law has been declared, and that's not like stated as a good thing. It's just like, this is where we're at. Like, it's more like
on some level, I think you cannot expect a realistic, quote unquote, realistic depiction of Batman to healthily address these very real issues. That's not a defense of it, because I do want them to lean into the more fantastical, especially because the style, I think, would look like, imagine Clayface in this context. Like, they just start moving away from the realism again. I would be all for that. I really would be.
We'll see. I want to reiterate, I'm not asking for fucking Batman to pop to the screen and go a cab and like punch someone in the face. I'm saying like to like stop centering cops in the narrative. Like, is my whole big thing. Even if you're gonna make it about like corrupt police, and it's so hard because Jim Gordon is such like an integral character to the Batman thing.
Right.
But,
well, I mean, I don't know, the Schumacher and Tim Burton ones, they weren't really. I don't think the police were really involved in those.
Well, that's because there's bumbling trombone police in those fucking movies.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, they're just a bunch of goofs, and they get kicked down the stairs and shit. Like, and they go up against criminals with neon on their guns. Like, I mean, that's all I'm saying is that, like, I don't want these movies to be about like Batman, quote unquote, fixing the police department, I guess. If we're gonna have the police in there, I want them to just suck forever, I guess, at least. But I don't know. It's complicated, and it's asking a lot for a fucking Batman movie to handle it. So and I guess, and a lot of this movie is kind of about like where does Batman fit in this world anymore? Like, it is so much that internal journey for him. And that's certainly a question we've been asking about a lot of institutions. So by design, the movie has to come down and be like, yeah, but the fundamentals are strong and shit. Like, it's just to make it work as a narrative. But like, if this was the first movie and it fucking ended with, let's not be Batman anymore, I think Warner Brothers executives maybe wouldn't be happy with that. But I don't know. It was just the whole speech at the end was kind of like the thing that made me go like, I don't know about this. That feels like if Matt Reeves lost any battle, it was that, because that definitely feels like an executive coming in and being like, we can't end it super hopeless. Give this, at the end. And it's this weird thing of like, because it's so disaster centric, and we're kind of living through a lot of like multiple disasters happening at once in this country, that it's this weird thing of like trying to get people ready for a collapse, but then saying the state must endure, which is a narrative I feel coming, and I don't like that narrative. But because who fucking got us into this mess, motherfuckers? Anyway, but
here, really quick, before we keep sharing stuff, I did tell people on Twitter I was going to read responses, so I must do that right now. Daniel, that's Dan Doherty, of course, at Cold Take Artist, said it's an excellent movie. Rob Patterson playing Batman as a looming specter prone to violence while doing his detective work was chef kiss. At Way to Dawn 86 said, loved the movie without giving away anything. I hope they don't fully go the route with a certain teased character at the end.
Oh yeah,
it's been done, so let's introduce others who the general public and fans have not seen before. And I wish we got a little more from Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis first, and then let's talk about the Joker cheese. Andy Serkis, I think, is great, and the most boring iteration of Alfred so far.
No. He's got a lot going on in his few scenes, which is what I really like.
Let me. That was a very saucy attempt to rile up conversation. He's great, Alfred.
And are you forgetting? Are you
good.
fucking forgetting that Jeremy Irons, who did fucking nothing in his two movies?
Jeremy Irons was awesome, though.
Yeah, but he did nothing.
Oh, he doesn't have like an arc or anything
other than functional things of like, I'm gonna pull this lever here, and that's a plot thing now. It's like he might as well have not been in those fucking movies.
I like Jeremy Irons.
I almost laughed. I had to stop myself from laughing because I thought Alfred got blown up in that one scene, I thought he was dead, and it almost made me laugh because I'm like, God damn, Andy Serkis. It's like he gets killed in Star Wars, he gets killed in Black Panther, and now he's like, oh, he's in the DC universe now, and it's like, nope, first time out, fucking dead. And I almost laughed. I would love to see. I'd love to see more. Also, he said that when he was breaking the code at the one point, he mentions like his time in the circus, which is the circus is the name for the intelligence group in the Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy books, in the George Smiley novels. So I was like, aha, another fan of that shit. So that maybe won me over to him a little more. But no, I loved Andy Serkis, and I just like Andy Serkis. He's kind of one of those guys that makes any movies and kind of a little more fun.
Yeah,
I wanted to see more of that Alfred. He was just in like 3 scenes. They
just
kind of like
probably in like 5.
No, I think he's in 3 because it's like gives him cufflinks, the beginning, dies, and then I think that's.
I would say it's about 3. It's like 3 or 4 because it's like the beginning, cufflinks, gets blown up, and then he's in the hospital. So,
oh wow, you're right.
Exactly 4. He was too busy with Venom versus Carnage.
But you can break down a lot of characters like that where like they kind of only have a few moments, but they feel like they're in the movie a lot. Like Catwoman actually doesn't have that many scenes when you really break down, but she feels like such a presence throughout the movie. What's his name? The guy who gets blown up in the church.
Skarsgård.
Yeah. Which might be my favorite scene in the movie was that church sequence. Like that whole was just fantastic.
I forgot like what it's like to get like really tense watching like a movie in theaters.
Oh yeah.
And, like when the countdown starts, and it's like the last like 15 seconds or whatever. It's like I was like, oh shit. And like I knew he was gonna like if you watch the trailers, like you can kind of piece together what happened. That's just with every movie now, right? Mm-hmm. So like, okay, he's gonna blow up, right? But I was like, oh shit, like it's gonna happen. And I got scared of it like happening on screen. Like it didn't matter that I knew.
I was like Batman, you're gonna move out of the way, right?
Yeah, no.
right? And then it just kept going.
And it's not just like an exciting set piece. It's like kind of scary also, but like, then it establishes like, oh, this dude's like willing to die for that. Like whatever's happening here is so like serious that this dude will not give up information and would rather die than tell.
But
like
even
that's like fucking huge.
Before that, the actual car crashing into this buildup of that where like you just hear screaming outside, it was like surprisingly intense for a goddamn tentpole movie. Like,
yeah,
you really don't see that. And I have to agree. I think it was Andrew that said Logan is like his best. Like, it really did kind of have that. Like, I haven't felt that way since Logan, where Logan kind of surprised me in similar ways of like, oh wow, I just didn't like, I forgot blockbusters could go here, because so many of them don't these days.
Yeah, it's not like hogwash, it doesn't. Even though it's like a murkier looking film, like it's very clearly intentional, and it's not that they just forgot to like grade the footage or something. And they're like, it's a very dark looking movie, and even that church funeral scene, it's like when Batman comes out of the shadows, it's like it's really well like lit and choreographed. I also want to say to go back to the other point I mentioned, the Joker scene, which is in the movie. There was apparently another scene beforehand. I don't think anyone's seen it so far, so maybe it's just Matt Reeves talking out of his butt. God bless him for this movie. But Matt Reeves was saying that there was a scene earlier with that version of the Joker to kind of establish that like that was one of the first people that this Batman had fought, and he's kind of dealt with that already. And so when the Riddler stuff starts kicking up, he goes to see the Joker and is like, hey, what'd you do? And then it would be like, oh, this not me this time. See you later, dude. And then they would pick up later with that little tease at the end, which he has also said. He may be also talking out of his ass again, but Matt Reeves has also said that, don't expect him to be like the lead of the next movie though, which I am also okay with. That being said, until I heard all of that, when I first saw the movie, I was like, that's cool, but why is that here?
It's the one like kind of, this movie is so good, which is like, I'm kind of a little worried about Matt Reeves being involved with all the spin-off shit, because this movie felt so contained, and it felt like so smart of like, oh, I don't need to know any fucking ancillary shit to know what's going on. It was so good at being like, Batman's been going for about 2 years now. You blah, blah, blah. Here's what happens. Boom, boom, boom. Here's his relationship. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm a little worried that he might get too reliant on like, oh, well, I set that up in another thing. And that was like the only moment where I'm like, we're doing the Batman Begins tease again at the end of the second movie. Like, it's a little weird. But hey, I hope, I don't want to see Joker this soon as like a primary antagonist, but
have him in a spin-off.
No, I don't even want that. Like, I just have him be like in the B plot next time. Here's what
I do. I would take Joker, and I would make like a Joker movie, but I would base it on Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy, and I would cast De Niro as a guy who's somehow both Johnny Carson and David Letterman, which doesn't make any sense. And I would make it about cancel culture, because you know how people recorded stand-up acts all the time on their camcorders in the 80s and then sent them into talk shows. And I don't know. I think, I don't mean to be a little grandiose, but I think we could get a Best Picture nomination, and I think we could make $1 million with that idea. I think, maybe we could really say something about society and how people can't take a fucking joke anymore.
You might be onto something.
For everything that Matt Reeves got away with, like Warner Brothers is like notorious for like being on like their bullshit, like during like the Snyder years, because of everything going back and forth. It's like, well, WB is gonna WB, for they kind of seem to be like on trying to make amends for all of that. Be like, no guys, like look, like we can let people actually tell their stories, right?
Yeah.
Unlike some of the other the competition, right? But for everything that Matt Reeves got away with, it's like, yes, Matt, you can have junkies be like a big part of the plot. Don't worry, we can show people getting high. We can show people going into
just not smoking.
Like,
we can show people doing drugs, but the fucking Penguin cannot smoke a goddamn cigarette. Right? Don't you even fucking think about it.
And they keep going down the list. Like, you can have this. You can show someone get like bluntly murdered with a fucking iron tool. But if you want to get away with this, man, you want to do that, put the Joker in it. You gotta give us Joker. That does kind of feel
More
like
Joker,
you
yeah.
can't do any of this without Joker. Like at least have him in somehow because that scene, as even the first time I saw it, like I was on a high, but when he popped out, I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like
Yeah.
really?"
Well, I was gonna
Because
say
it doesn't. That scene doesn't feel like it belongs in the movie. It
no,
feels
yeah.
like a Marvel fucking typical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This is what you're gonna see next time. It's like
I will
what?
say I was at least happy it wasn't like a post-credit thing. Like I liked
Right.
that it was kind of in the narrative. Like, so, hey, yeah, but it was just like it is kind of the one like I don't know about that, but
Yeah. Also, yeah, you've had like 3 Jokers in the
Yeah.
past like 2 years.
there's currently 3 Jokers. Like it feels like 3 Jokers are running around right now because they brought him back for the end of the Snyder cut. They brought what's his fuck back, and then it's like there's all this talk about doing a Joker too because the people have no fucking morals or values at that studio, and now it's like, oh, and then there's another Joker, and it's just like I was so worried there was going to be a moment though where it was like, aha, this is actually a sequel to Joker. Like I felt like that was going to be the thing. Like,
Bring back
Can you imagine?
Joaquin.
Oh my god, can you imagine?
well, because there was so much nonsense in the fucking Joker movie about like they wrote that movie so like awkwardly where it's like Joaquin Phoenix doesn't have to actually be the Joker, but one of the people inspired by him could have been the Joker. And I remember when this was like a year ago when they were like, which I guess wasn't true. They were like, this Batman is like a 90s Batman. They said it was going to be set in the 90s. And everyone's
Yeah.
like, the
big
fuck
news.
does that mean? But then you watch the movie and that's not true at all. So
Just listens to 90s music.
but when I heard that and like Joker was set in kind of like an 80s, I was like, oh fuck, are they gonna fucking is it just gonna be a fucking Joker sequel? And thankfully that didn't happen. So
Yeah, I
know.
think right now we're at a really good point, like before the storm hits, because it's just really like we got this really like amazing self-contained like story,
Mhm.
and later this year we're gonna see Batman 2 more times.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck in the Flash, Ben Affleck's in the Flash, and Michael Keaton's in the Flash. And then we're gonna get that Batgirl movie that's on HBO Max, and Michael Keaton's in that Bat movie on HBO Max, and J.K. Simmons is Jim Gordon on that movie. And those movies come out in November and December. So right now, like I said,
So
we're in the
fucking
calm before the
confusing.
storm. Like
Yeah.
we're like in the really good, like how great it was that we got this movie and it's self-contained and
Yeah.
it's start something new. But later down the year, trust me, like as much as we're batting, we're not batting, but we're giving we're saying nice things about WB.
Yeah.
Like, hey, they let Matt Reeves do all this. But they're gonna be. I think that they might be back on their bullshit this year.
Yeah. I think
Just-
you're
We're
getting.
gonna get all this other stuff.
As long as they do all that shit like over there, like as long as it's
Yeah.
like let Matt Reeves do his thing over here.
Yeah.
Like
I
do
don't
like
know.
just and then like because they kept trying to force shit on Nolan back in
Yeah.
the day, and
Yeah.
they kind of but Nolan kind of was able to keep his own kingdom. Just do that again, and then like do all this weird like spin-off stuff that is just to promote HBO Max. It's
Right.
like
Content.
whatever, just fucking do that. And
I'm really worried when they take away that Ben Affleck Batman. You're gonna have like a Snyder QAnon uprising at Warner Brothers. They're gonna like rush the studio.
Well, nobody knows what that movie's about, legit
Well,
yet. But like
you kind of
judging,
could.
but judging from like again from the slate, from what the set photos, whatever, it's like it's more than likely Ben Affleck is gonna be erased from like whatever
Or,
you
like,
want to call
yeah.
the continuity, and Michael Keaton's gonna come back and collect that bag once more. And then he's gonna like train the new Batgirl, and then it's just really weird to think that all of this shit is still gonna be this year after this movie, and you know what I mean? It's like, how the fuck do you want? I don't know. Maybe it's different now because Marvel proved that people don't care about continuity. As long as you show them things that they recognize, they'll go into the movie theaters and they'll pay money. But like, how do you expect people to catch up with this bullshit? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
even
I mean,
me, like, what
the
if
big thing that breaks it even further for me is that like, look at how fucking good this movie looks, like constantly. To read another tweet really quickly. At Jacob Knight JK said, absolute banger of a film, so much emotion, all the shots had purpose, and I missed seeing Batman be a detective. Hope they bring in Robin for the next one. Gotta lighten our boy up. And it's like Andrew, you and I had that conversation last night. I was like, I want like I think the Bat family could fit into the next movie. Because this is kind of like, here's all the Batman shit in one movie, right? For 3 hours, basically. The next one's like, okay, how does he grow? Because the end of this film is like, hey, you cannot survive on your own here. Like it's every problem in the film he comes across is solved by like opening himself up, basically.
And I think with the age of Robert Pattinson, we can finally get a fucking movie where they're like Robin's a goddamn kid instead of casting like a 30-year-old, and then
Chris
like,
O'Donnell.
yeah, and just being like partner, brother, we gotta fucking do this. Like, and they compete over Poison Ivy or some horse shit. Like, yeah, but like, oh god, I did not know about all the shit you were talking about, Andrew, of just like, I mean, like I said, like whatever, like they gotta make the fucking content shit. Like as long as they keep these worlds separate, you know,
content milk, baby.
Yeah. But if Michael Keaton Batman is coming back, fuck that. Get DeVito Penguin in that shit. Like do it immediately. Like just because why not? Like who cares anymore?
Yeah, I mean that for that stuff like that. I mean, look, you're getting the director
He'd come back
to make the Flash movie. That's like just
who's doing it?
Andy
Muschietti.
And
he did the It movies and Mama.
Oh yeah, those are bad movies.
Yeah, I mean, It Chapter 2 is like maybe one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
1-star movie.
It's
a 1-star.
It is, but like, yeah, just do all the dumb bullshit with that one. Put Penguin in the Flash too. Although shout out to him for casting a brown Supergirl. Thumbs up. Sorry she has to be in that movie, but let her get the bag. And like, just fucking put all the dog shit over there. Put all the Marvel copy stuff over there. And then let James Wan just do whatever the fuck he wants with Aquaman 2.
Yeah.
I'm there for more Matt Reeves.
I don't mind the continuity. I don't mind none of these continuities making sense. Like,
yeah, no, I don't give a fuck about that.
I'm fine with that.
I'm here for like the occasional good movie. Yeah. I feel like even though we've all like
occasional one,
we've all totally ragged on the Marvel stuff. I don't want to spend more time on that. We've all ragged on like the DC stuff for blatantly trying to copy Marvel. Like it's not even a secret. Suicide Squad is just them trying to do Guardians of the Galaxy, and it blew up in their face immediately with that and Justice League, right? And then after that, they were like, okay, let our directors do stuff. And then what we discover is that sometimes directors just aren't very good at their jobs. But like that's kind of the way you want the industry to work, you know?
Yeah.
Like if someone's gonna make a bad movie, let them make a bad movie on their own terms. I can live with that.
Here's a question. Has Kevin Smith posted a picture of himself crying?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, he did?
I think he did, yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Because I was like, that will determine the future of this film. Like, if Kevin Smith didn't do that, but like, he would totally do it for fucking Michael Keaton coming back and goddamn whatever, the Flash meets Batman of Two Worlds or some horseshit. Like, it's, you know.
He's an emotional man, I guess.
And how the fuck, I just gotta say, like, as just a nerd, it's like, it's so fucked up to be like, the Flash, and then Michael Keaton Batman's back, and then all this other shit, and it's like, oh, Black Adam, which no one really cares about, and like all this, and it's like Superman is still kind of like on the ropes. Like, it's like they can't.
We got that Abrams, isn't Abrams doing one or something?
Oh, he is, but it's like it's another separate bullshit thing.
Oh, all right.
And it's one of the black
he's been getting his knives ready for that for the last 20 years.
Oh yeah, because he did that Superman script that like leaked and was so bad he basically got run off the project because
got bullied off.
Yeah,
he pushed him off the thing. Get out of it.
Oh god, there's a guy I don't want to do Superman. It's fucking J.J. Abrams. I feel like
Matt Reeves is like kind of using JJ to like, all right, whatever you go first. Whatever you do, I'll do the opposite of. That'll make
Where the fuck did Matt Reeves come from? Honestly, like it's so strange that like it's like, oh, you're gonna do the Planet of the Apes sequels, and they're gonna be like, oh, they're gonna be some of the best blockbusters of their respective decade. Like that's nuts.
He got where he is just being, I guess, Abrams' friend. Sticking around, had to put up with his nonsense.
Well, I mean, the like, look, we rag on Abrams too because Rise of Skywalker, Jesus Christ,
rightfully so, yeah.
But like, he's not untalented. He has odd story inclinations that will often conflict with the very like direction he's giving the story or the visual production.
Maybe I do relate to Matt Reeves because it's kind of like working with someone on like a multi-year project and like they say stupid shit all the time and then you got to be there and be like, and occasionally they say like a smart thing, and you're like, okay, I'll take that piece. And then, but all that other stuff they say is stupid. I don't know how I could possibly relate to that, but I do as a guy named Matt. So it's hey, who knows?
Hey, that's so weird. My childhood nickname growing up was JJ. That's
Wow,
I think it's very...
that's strange. Oh, I wasn't talking about you. Talking about another guy, the other podcast, the other retrospectives.
It is kind of funny to bring up JJ and Matt's history because they've known each other since like they were like 13, and they used to make like short films together and stuff like that. And
it's Goofus and Gallant. Like, sorry.
Yeah. Another funny thing is that Matt Reeves, he most recently, like he's been on the junket, like he talked about how he went to USC and one of his screenwriting teachers was Jeff Loeb, who wrote obviously who wrote Long Halloween. Mm-hmm. So when someone asked him like, "Oh, why did you choose Long Halloween as one of the inspirations for this story?" And he goes, "Well, I went to USC and my teacher was Jeff Loeb." And, and that dude, he had like a really like strong run back in the day.
Yeah.
Like incredible run.
And then so I think went off a cliff.
Yeah. But it's kind of funny how all of these things tie together. Yeah. And how like you can clearly see like, oh, that's kind of cool, no? But it's kind of weird because I think me and Diego joked about this last night. It's like that final shot where Batman and Catwoman drive off and then they split up at the end and they go separate ways. Like that's Matt Reeves and JJ in their careers.
Yeah.
One way. And like Matt's looking at the mirror in his bike and he sees JJ going into the smoke and he's like, there he goes. Like he's off to do great things, right? And then he just heads back to like, but my city's calling me, and he goes back. That's the perfect like symbolism of their relationship and their careers. Like completely opposite.
Wow. That's fascinating, honestly. That's a fascinating take.
It's a good read on that movie, I guess.
Yeah.
I've been saying they're a dyad in the Force ever since Rise of Skywalker came out. So it's
what does that mean?
Yeah,
what does it mean?
They're related to Palpatine. That's it. This is what I'm gonna ignore it. Palpatine.
But also they're kind of like brother and sister if you think about it.
Yeah. When you think about it too hard.
Yeah. But not literally, guys. That would be an insane thing for someone to say, especially if they were the director of that film.
I can't believe of all the bad shit with Rise of Skywalker, until now I didn't even think of that. Like I didn't even go like, oh, now they're related. Like,
yeah. I think it's like his aunt, technically, if you're really nerdy about it.
Wow.
We're not getting into that. Okay, Batman.
Did they ever all right, yeah.
More Batman. At Mile. No, not that's not that. That's
Palpatine showed up at Arkham at the end of this movie. You thought that was a bit much. He was attached to like a giant like crane thing, and it was like, what the fuck is that? It's like it helps patients, whatever. Like who cares?
Catwoman, my granddaughter.
And did you not like the scene where they were regrowing Andy Serkis's in like giant vats like at the hospital? And it was just like.
No, that's amazing because it's like, we all have these fan theories like, well, if it's the Emperor, then he's probably like he's misgrown, he's not supposed to look like that. And then they cut to the vats
and it's seven.
And it's just like they all look the same. It's like, so that they were stupid. Fucking.
It's not you're supposed to let a movie like be told visually, and like sometimes it's better to not say anything. Like Rise of Skywalker is like the exact opposite, where they should have shown fucking so much less than they showed in that goddamn movie, because it's just like the shots is like that raises so many more questions.
All right, Miles Harris said, I dug the foreboding, ominous tone / vibe throughout the film. How the structure felt like a detective mystery story rather than the illusion of one. And I think that's important because a lot of these movies say like, maybe a pair of directors might say our film was inspired by Out of Sight. And then you watch the film they're referring to and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? There's nothing
Out of Sight,
like Out of Sight.
French Connection.
Yeah.
Who said that recently? I'm sorry. I don't.
It's like Rousseau brothers.
The Rousseau brothers said that about Infinity War.
They said, they said Winter Soldier and Heat.
Winter Soldier and Heat, I can at least see. I can at least see it.
An outliner.
But this movie's fucking closer to Heat than fucking Winter Soldier was.
I'll finish reading the rest of the tweet because it's good. The camaraderie between Bruce and Selina and Bruce and Gordon, the world building never being at the expense of the story. The Riddler being menacing and tragic, every character being connected to the case. Some of the best action in the series so far makes Gotham feel like a character and real shithole. I have nitpicks about pacing and exposition, but I remain in awe of the film. And I think we talked about it earlier, but I really want to reiterate that the pacing is like really good in this.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't. Yeah,
it really builds to that big finale, because so often in these big movies now, it's like, here's what we can do with all this money. Like, let's just throw it.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's never like a flow to it. Like, sometimes people get a little tired of like simple act 1, act 2, act 3. Each action scene gets bigger. But also, it definitely helps a film become more palatable if you follow that structure. You don't need to do it all the time, but it makes a difference when you know how to do it right. Like, sometimes the easiest solution is the best solution, you know? And this is that for 3 hours.
Yeah, I was gonna say, going off that tweet, I was very glad to see, first, Batman and Catwoman have tension, like sexual tension again, because in Rises,
he's a voyeur. He's a fucking voyeur in the first shot. Like,
it just opens up with the fucking Brian De Palma shit.
Yeah, which I'm like, I was at a point where I'm like, well, we're never gonna see anything even approaching that in cinema again. And it was like, nope, it's the first 5 minutes of a goddamn Batman movie. So yeah, no,
that was good. And then too, like in Rises and the Nolan movies, he's so like sexless, I guess, and
because he's terrified of women.
Yeah,
and to be fair here, like there is like tension between Bruce and Selena.
Yeah,
but I also like that Bruce has also probably never like fucked before, and so like there's a clear attraction, but he also doesn't know what to do with it, and that kind of makes it more exciting in a weird way.
I think he's probably fucked, I guess.
I don't think so. Like, that's not a problem. I like that. Like, this version of Bruce is like
weirdo.
He's a weirdo, and he kind of plays him almost like a little kid. Not in like some mental health like reductive kind of way, but like he doesn't know how to be a person because he's like rejected that at that age. He's like, no, I just need to be Batman all the time, and that gets a really interesting performance out of him. Like, I love these little touches Robert Pattinson has when he's like walking up out of the manor into the light, like in the dining room or wherever Alfred's working. He's like, he sees the sun and he starts squinting. He's like, ugh, and he puts his sunglasses on. And it's not complicated. It's just a simple little motion, a simple little act, and it adds so much to that performance, you know? And there's lots of little things like that I really liked that show him like just not knowing how to be a human being. And this film ends with the note that like, hey, dude, you can't just be this. Vengeance is not like the answer, which is not a complicated like thesis for a Batman movie.
Another thing, there was a tweet going around, I don't know if you saw, it was like, what's the worst trope in like movies recently? And I saw multiple people responding with like saying that doing this will make us just like the bad guys. And then Batman literally says that to Selena at one point, which is kind of like but when there's like there was more of a narrative reason of being like, we got to bring him in because we got to know how deep this conspiracy goes, as opposed to like killing is wrong, which kind of didn't feel as important in that moment. But hey,
I think there's also just a better way of phrasing that, because it's a more complicated issue. Because again, like I really like the Catwoman stuff in this, not just because she's played by Zoe Kravitz, but like there's you really get the sense that like she doesn't have the opportunities that Bruce Wayne had. Bruce Wayne gets the opportunity to become like the symbol of vengeance and eventually learn to become a symbol of hope. And other people wouldn't have that luxury should they become the Batman or a Catwoman, perhaps, you know? And that's why I'm willing to give this movie a little more leeway in terms of like the weird political stuff it's got going on, which again is just kind of unavoidable with a realistic interpretation of a superhero, especially Batman. But that's what I was really drawn to, that like Catwoman just can't, like, she doesn't have time for that. Her life is on the line constantly with it, you know? I just found that really interesting. And I'll read off a couple more tweets, and then I guess we could do like final thoughts if anyone has any. I feel like we do.
Stop
We've been talking
asking,
for a while.
Yeah, stop asking Matt Reeves if like Superman exists
in
this universe, or like nonsense questions.
Yeah. At Movie Kale said it's one of the best Batman movies to date. If our Pats hasn't blown everyone away yet by this performance, then I don't know what will. Everyone's fantastic. Colin Farrell,
did anyone respond?
John Turturro are huge standouts.
Did anyone respond in the negative to the movie?
Not to us.
So you follow cowards who, well, they don't feel brave enough to stand up for what they believe in,
I guess.
I've seen criticism about the runtime. Let's see. I'm going to find the most negative take I can find. please discuss amongst yourselves.
Like I can see people kind of having a hang up about like the self-seriousness of this movie.
Yeah.
Although it threaded like levity, I think, very well, which is something I think the Snyder films have really struggled with, where like those movies are so like trying to be hardcore that like they kind of don't have any like levity at all, in a way that like makes everyone feel kind of paperish, like in terms of development. But I get, because also I remember, what was the second Planet of the Apes film he did? Was
War.
Dawn?
War? No, War's the second one, I think.
It's Dawn, yeah.
No. Dawn is the second one, but War is the second one.
War's the second one he did.
Yeah.
I remember people kind of being like, why the fuck is this film so goddamn depressing? Because it's like a really dark, it's a goddamn Planet of the Apes film. And that's kind of what I like about Matt Reeves' stuff, is that like he kind of goes in on it like really hard. But I could see that being a big hang up for people, especially where you're like, it's a fucking Batman movie. Like, I could see people having a problem there. But
I saw this viral tweet that it's like, that panel from Watchmen where Dr. Manhattan's sitting on Mars, and he says something like, "It is this day, and I am doing this again."
Oh, yeah.
Like that repeated when they did that, and they just copied and pasted and put, it's like, it's 2005 and I'm seeing a more gritty and darker Batman film. And then it's 2016, I am seeing a more gritty and darker Batman film. And it's 2022, I am seeing a more gritty and darker Batman. Like, I get that notion, because those words, gritty, grounded, dark, are very like misused a lot of the time, and they're very like misunderstood. So I wouldn't call the Snyder films like, I wouldn't really call them gritty. I would just call them really like abrasive, and probably like they're dark, but like I don't like. There's other ways to describe things, and there's better ways of going about it.
That's why I said hard. I feel hardcore like kind of works, because like that's what they're trying to go for. Like, which is very, and also I would gotta say I didn't like necessarily, which might sound strange, but I didn't get like this is trying to be grittier vibe from this. Like, it didn't feel, I guess, like it was trying to push that envelope. Like, it felt kind of natural, if that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Even though this is definitely probably the worst Gotham has ever looked in any depiction. Like, even in the Snyder films, because Snyder only kind of saw like one slum, and it was like, oh, all right, I guess that place is bad. But this is like, no, this whole city kind of sucks. And so, but I don't know, like, it's a shame that these words get thrown around, probably because executives like the sound of them.
The Flyers need to take back that word.
Yeah.
Gritty.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, look at Gritty. He's a big orange guy who just smashes cakes for some reason. You go to a Flyers game, he's just throwing things at people in the stands. It's
pushing kids.
Yeah, it's wild. It's like, how is he not getting sued all the time? But
he's paying off those judges, I guess.
I guess that's what it is.
Gritty is like Falcone.
A little, this movie's a little fucking prejudiced against Italians.
A little bit.
There's Carmine Falcone, and then there's the fucking Penguin, and then there's
well, what is it like? He's listening to like Dean Martin or something.
Oh yeah,
like, of course he would.
He's like, hey, fancy boy, like he's got gold teeth and shit. And I gotta say, one thing that threw me off is that like the two mobsters mentioned are Carmine Falcone and Salvatore Maroni, which are two from the comics guys, but their names are so like Italian similar that I kind of was like, oh wait, did Salvatore get out of prison? Like, I got like confused at a certain point. Like, I mixed both of them up. But
and that is also another thing that comes from like the Nolan trilogy too. He does those as well. And my buddy Josh Lewis did a really good write-up of this movie on Letterboxd, and he was like, he also made the point that like, look, it's the 9th standalone Batman movie. Like, there's gonna be a little like overlap with previous iterations.
Right.
There's just bound to be. And because you could see elements of like Batman, Catwoman, and Penguin all headline Batman Returns. They are also headlining this movie, The Riddlers and Batman Forever. It's like you can piece together like a lot of stuff. It just happens to filter it through a very specific filmmaker's lens, or maybe specific is the wrong word, because Matt Reeves doesn't have like an identifiable style.
I don't know. He might.
He's really good at like making style for the individual films, though.
I guess, but you could definitely feel the same guy made Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and made this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, for sure. the tone, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to find like a take that's like super negative, and no one's really super negative from what I'm finding, anyways. There is an Indonesian film critic named Rizky Fakiarancia. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, but he writes very good posts on Letterboxd and for an Indonesian newspaper that you have to translate because it's not in English. But his post about the Batman was much more lukewarm than we're giving. But even then, it's not like super negative. It's just about how it's competently made, it's engrossing, it's a transplantation of tropes and affectations that elevate an otherwise pedestrian screenplay. I don't know if I'd agree with that, but I'll link this one because it's the most lukewarm and it's also very well written, just to kind of get like a broader spectrum. Like, it's just, at the end of the day, it is a superhero movie. You don't need to like.
I think we're just all on like superhero burnout. Like, I think that's a lot. And
I mean, like, we in the group chat have kind of been dunking on some lesser criticism takes. Like some people do just operate in bad faith, and they're like, "Why is Batman so serious?" And it's like, well, I don't know. It's just because this is the version they went.
Well, I am waiting for the Snyder heads to come out and be like, "This movie's bullshit. Fucking Affleck Batman's where it's at."
But, they've already done that.
I haven't seen a ton of it. So,
you're lucky. You're lucky.
Yeah. I do have like every word related to DC Comics muted, so like that helps.
You're doing it right. But I just want to say that like, like it's fun to dunk on people that we disagree with, but it's also like, Batman fans in particular are generally like they have more in common with the Riddler than like normal people. So like I totally get like don't dogpile people for like dissenting opinions or something like that. Just it's more fun to have these conversations in like a public forum and like in a way that's like pleasant and not just like, you didn't like this movie, I'm gonna dox you and your entire family.
I'm sure the comments under this video will be really cool and fine.
Have you seen the Sugarland Express episode on YouTube?
No, I you told me not to. So
oh boy.
I can't believe it's that one. I can't believe that's the one that people are like, these fucking pinko commies have gone too far.
Weird fucking people on YouTube.com.
Yeah.
All right, last takes. Andrew, let's start with you. We'll do the same order.
I think so going back to what we were literally just talking about, one of the last things I want to say is that I do think that there has been a very, very strong reaction to this film. I've already seen a lot of comments online about people saying it's like one of the most definitive Batman movies, one of the most definitive comic movies, blockbusters, etc. The list goes on. And I do think this reaction is being met because at a most like standard level, this movie is achieved at doing the things that any movie in any of these blockbusters should be achieving. So knowing what good blocking is, good lighting, good how to set up a scene, how to frame a scene, etc. And the fact that a lot of blockbusters now, not even just superhero movies, because I think it goes far beyond superhero movies. If you watch the movies of the month that Netflix releases and they look like fake movies, like Super Bowl commercials, but they're real, like those movies got the same thing going on too. But the fact that a blockbuster right now is meeting like, and again, like it shouldn't be a lot to ask for a movie like to know what good lighting is, or to at least know what they're doing with their lighting, etc. Right? To know how to use anamorphic lenses in the right lenses in the right situation, etc. But the fact that this movie is hitting all those marks and going above and beyond with them, I think is what should be acknowledged, because it's like it does feel like there's a certain point watching the movie and like, yes, like not every superhero movie, not every dark story is gonna look like this, because they're all going for their own different styles. But like, you're still asking yourself, why do more movies not look like this? Or like, why do not more movies feel like this? Because it's one thing to look like it, but there's a weight to this movie that feels earned. Like when the Batmobile, like when he turns that shit on, you feel it. You know what I mean? Like you can feel the engine. It's not something that's just visual. It's like a presence. There's gravitas to this film. And I think that's one of the best things I could say, is that it really does feel in a way like epic, but it's not, the movie itself is not an epic per se. Right. So I do think that, like, I told Diego this, it's just like, there's a change of tide coming. Like I even see people online, they're going like, wait a minute, like, why don't more movies feel like, why does this movie feel different? You know what I mean? Like even the normal people, not people that are like on film Twitter like average fans of these franchises, like Marvel, DC, everything, they're realizing, wait a minute, like you can make movies like this, and like why movies like this can be released, like that can have these things going on for them, like. And again, this movie is not even like I wouldn't even call it Batman revolutionary. It's just really good at what it's trying to do, you know. So I do think there's a change of tide coming. Not even just like movie making, but like that people are gonna start demanding for better. You know what I mean? Because when we get stuff like this, and we get 5 more movies, they could be DC movies too. It doesn't have to be the other guys. Like if the Rock for whatever that Black Adam feels like it was directed by a committee, people are gonna notice, and the people who are following these movies chapter by chapter, they're gonna realize, wait a minute, like no, we can get better and we should be getting better. So that's the last thing I wanted to say.
No, thank you for saying that. Did you say you had to hop off already, or?
I could just hang out right now. Like, yeah.
Okay, yeah. We'll wrap up. Matt, your last thoughts.
I still got hangups about the cops and shit. Like, hopefully, what the updates that show are correct and it'll be better. And hopefully, it signals a shift, not just with Andrew saying and what people want out of movies, but also maybe our relationship to power structure in films, that's a whole political thing, and people get freaked out when you start talking about politics in films. But hopefully, we can see that shift coming as well. I feel like we won't fully see the shift until studios start making less money with the cheaper films. You know, like as long as the cheaper films make as much money as the well put together films, we're still going to get that shit. But I will say, to piggyback off of what Andrew said, like I had the same thing where I think Diego and I are too. We're defenders of Eternals, but we're also defenders of Eternals in a way where it's like this should be the bar. Like this is what all these movies should hit at a bare minimum. And the fact that most of them can't even come close says a lot about these movies. And that if I were to take the Batman is like a step above that, you know, of like, that's the target more blockbusters should be aiming for. And again, like, and it's not just superhero films. It seems like all of like the film world right now, even stuff I really like, there's a cheapness to a lot of things. And I hope that shift is coming. I hope Batman is kind of maybe a beginning of that as well. Time will tell. Who knows if the suits get back in control and suddenly fucking there's a multiverse in the next Batman movie and Matt Reeves gets fired halfway through filming it. But you know, goddamn, did you get the Doctor Strange trailer before it? Where it's like, God bless Sam Raimi, but like it's just good Lord, I don't know how much I can do this anymore. Like, it's just but yeah, you know. Go see it. This is a good movie, even though it's 3 hours. Like it feels worth it. And it's an argument that if a film should be 3 hours, it should be 3 hours, you know? And I'm a big defender of make your fucking movie 90 minutes. Because so many of these other movies can be, but that's because there's nothing in them. And I think there's not like overlong action scenes. Everything is character and story and theme. That's what makes it longer. And that's what I really appreciated about it. So even though I have that one big asterisk, and I feel like a coward for even endorsing this movie because of that asterisk, but I still really liked it. So
okay, Gene, final
I
thoughts.
have to go now though.
Okay. So Andrew, we will plug you.
Stop talking. I don't wanna interrupt Gene. That's why.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, well, we'll see you later.
Nice talking to you.
All right, man.
All right.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much.
Bye. All right, Gene, final thoughts.
Yeah, I just found it very refreshing to talk to people about after. I was talking to some family member, just like, oh, wasn't this like great where the, camera spun this way, or how the camera was attached to the cars and everything. It just felt different talking about it to people, and good conversation, just like talking to like just nuances of these characters, and I enjoyed it. It's adapting be a nerd, like comic book storylines I didn't like Earth One, don't like that, by Jeff Johns, and it felt very unique, and I'm a big Matt Reeves fan. Still need to see the Pole Bearer, but maybe that's good.
I don't think anyone's seen that movie.
I want to see it, but it's very interesting following him from like Cloverfield to now, and just seeing what his brain thinks up of, because just how they've kind of like weaved all these like storylines from like the randomness of like a Telltale game or something. They're like adapting that, and he's kind of making it into his own thing. I just felt it was just a really fun movie, and it's just he really got it and understood. So I was happy as a Batman nerd. So yeah, I can't complain too much about it.
Yeah, I also like, I don't think it's a game changer quite yet, but like to Andrew and Matt's points, like I really do think that like people are going to take notice of like, hey, this felt, I think we all agree, like this felt different.
Yeah.
Like again, it's not even like my favorite Batman movie, but I was like, oh yeah, movies can like do this. You can like be expressive with your filmmaking, and you can tell a serious story. It's also still be funny. Like this movie's very funny. People said it's humorless. People called Batman Begins humorless when it came out too. Those are funny fucking movies. Like you can be serious and be funny just because you don't have a supporting character that's there to make you laugh. Like I don't know. The penguin fucking waddles when he's handcuffed. Like it's very funny.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want from these things.
Or the thumb drive. That was a good visual gag.
Yeah, I felt like a psychopath laughing at that, but I laughed at it twice.
Hey, not to kill the point that Andrew and I just made, but I decided on a whim to Google this. The Batman currently has an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes.
So let's call it mixed reviews.
Spider-Man No Way Home currently has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. So people that get to write film criticism aren't helping. It seems.
No, because some of them said it was too humorless, and you just can't have that.
The audience score is 98% for No Way Home, and when did fucking Rotten Tomatoes become impossible to navigate? Jesus Christ!
Yeah, I haven't gone on in years.
Yeah,
and the one time I did, I was like, "This is different. This is weird."
Yeah.
Bad designers of that website.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I still can't get to the fucking Batman page.
Well, I will say that speaking of Spider-Man and Eternals that Matt brought up, eventually we will get there in a retrospective, and we'll talk about Spider-Man at some point and Eternals, because they both fit the bill of now failed award contenders for some reason, which is like weird.
So you're gonna watch that Spider-Man eventually, huh?
Yeah. Well, we're gonna talk about it and Eternals at the same time. So even if we don't like Spider-Man, we're gonna talk about Eternals. So
yes.
Yeah. Did you find it yet?
Yes, it's a 90% audience score. So 98% for No Way Home and a 90% for the Batman.
Well,
they're lying. These are fake ballots or something.
We need to stop the count. All right. On that note, links down to Andrew's stuff in the description below. Matt, where can the people find you?
I'm at EmperorOTN1 at twitter.com. Also listen to the failed awards contender retrospective that is currently going on the Waffle Press. Talk about a lot of great movies and movies that aren't so great and movies we had nothing to say about ultimately. But and stay tuned for more Happy Amblin in the future, and then other things, and then whatever I bully Diego into doing because I think about it on a whim. So
I mean, failed award contenders. Let us talk about Tough Guys Don't Dance. You can check out right now.
Yes, hopefully it's out right now, and it's a fucking wild episode. So,
Gene, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Gene9892. I don't have anything to plug. It's good to be back on the podcast. I was absent the last couple.
Yeah, you missed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre episode I did with Abby Phelps, and we talked about Kenneth Branagh as well. Our boy.
Fucking Abby let you off the hook on Thor.
No, she's great. She's great.
Fucking cut your fucking head off on that shit. Just
Thor's a good movie. Thor is another real film.
God damn! If you could say that now, you're part of the problem.
It's still top 5 Marvel movies, but anyways, all right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. If you didn't like this episode, like and subscribe anyways, because you might find something you do like. You can find the episodes on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and Patreon. We have been professionally unprofessional.